Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, Blue Nose Trading. My name is Tori Solis, and today I'm going to be going over the full process in making this aquatic dragon. I'm also going to be talking about some of the ideas and considerations artistically that I kind of went through while I was creating this dragon. I start my sculptures with a wheel-thrown pot as the base. My typical design is a pot intended to be a bonsai planter. They are shallow, straight-sided pots, but they're also great for different types of succulents and cactus or whatever you want to plant in a shallow planter pot. This pot has already been trimmed and the drainage holes are already set in. I use a variety of holes in these pots, not only for the additional drainage, but also to provide holes for wiring trees into the pots if you are using this pot for a bonsai. I keep pots that are ready to be sculpted on in my damp box so that I can pull them out and work on sculptures as I have time for it. If you'd like to learn how to make a damp box, I'll go ahead and link to that video. They're super helpful for anyone who's working in sculpture because sometimes you just don't have the time to do it all in one sitting. So it's great that I can keep clay wet and ready for when I'm ready and have time to get to things. I'm going to hand build this dragon. The dragon I'm making today is inspired by aquatic dragons. Making this design, I tried to keep what I know about aquatic animals in general in mind. This dragon is actually very much like a Spinosaurus, but I call it a dragon and not a dinosaur because I'm working loosely with some creative freedom rather than in an exacting scientific approach that would be a accurate representation of what current science recognizes as the Spinosaurus species would look like, based off of all of our current information. Something that I find particularly interesting where dragons' lore and legend is concerned is the role that fossils and dinosaurs have played into the legends that we know of. Right in this day and age, we think of dinosaurs and dragons as totally different things. Dinosaurs are very real, and we have a lot of scientific evidence to study them through their bones, and dragons are stuff that was made up to scare people from going in places that they shouldn't. And when humans would uncover fossils way back in a time before modern technology and science could determine that those bones actually belonged to these extinct prehistoric animals, they came to their own conclusions. Fossils and dinosaur bones help to stir the imaginations and create the mythical legends of dragons. If you try hard and you put yourself into the shoes of someone from back before the Enlightenment and the scientific revolution, it isn't super hard to see how they came to their conclusions. Dinosaur bones are huge, and without any basis for scientific explanation, they can be quite frightening, and it's not a super big leap for them to say these things might still be around because they had no idea of knowing what was extinct. A lot of the map was still unexplored, so for all we know, dragons could have been out there, but now we know better. But it's just super interesting to me, the concepts and ideas that they came up with for these creatures based off of bones alone without any of the modern technology that we have today. Today, with our modern science that rapidly expands our knowledge every day, we're developing more and more accurate ideas of what these dinosaurs most likely look like. They've got tons of different ways that they're doing this. It's a whole field, and you should definitely look into it because it is absolutely fascinating stuff to me. Science aside, in my creative work, I like to take a more open and creative approach. I like to tap into that old imagination approach that predates modernity. Like, what if there were fantastical monsters, and what would my mind conjure them to look like? What are some creative, different ideas in my mind that come to me when I'm thinking of ways to design these creatures? It's impossible for me to answer these creative questions free from both my biases and knowledge on the dragons of old that people have made up in legend, and the dinosaurs that we have now, and the scientific information for how those dinosaurs live and function. So when I'm creating a dragon, I like to pull from both of these pools of information to create something entirely new. I love it when dragons have fierce, strong, and bold expressions. A lot of this comes from European dragons, at least my inspiration for the bold, strong expressions is from the European dragons, but I also like it when dragons have really, really long bodies, and this is more like the Asian dragons legends, which interestingly enough, they think that China and Europe both independently came up with the concepts of dragons on their own, which is pretty neat. I like to also take in some practical, more scientific considerations when I'm creating a sculpture as well. The dragon that I'm making today, for example, is going to be one that lives an aquatic and amphibious lifestyle. So it makes sense to me that he would have webbed feet for swimming. I also designed his tail as a sort of paddle shape that would be good for swimming. As an aquatic carnivore, I imagine this dragon would be eating fish, so he would have long, sharp, conical teeth that are really great for catching and holding onto those slippery fish. The large sail on his back could play a role in swimming, or maybe it just makes him extra attractive to mates or extra intimidating to rivals or other large predators. When choosing the colors for this dragon, I first tried to imagine where I thought this creature would live. In my mind, I envision him stalking through the swampy, flooded grasslands like the Florida Everglades. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Florida Everglades, but it's enough to inspire anyone's imagination, and they already have a ton of alligators, so it's kind of like they have their own dragons already. But this one will be way bigger. With this in mind, I wanted him to have a swampy green and brown palette with some lighter counter shading that's typical to a lot of different aquatic animals and predators. For a modeled camouflage pattern, I laid down a layer of black Mako Fundamentals underglaze across his backside. Over that underglaze design that I created, I put a thick coat of this semi-translucent patina green glaze. His teeth and his eyes are both done in Mako Stroken coats because I wanted them to be sort of glossy. His tongue is done in Mako Fundamentals without any kind of glaze over it so that the tongue will be red but not glossy. For some additional razzle-dazzle, I put a line of gold metallic down the edge of his sail and his tail. I haven't ever put gold metallic and patina green together, so I'm just kind of hoping that they are going to play nice together. Experimenting on dragons maybe isn't the best idea, but here we are and we are doing it. I made this sculpture out of Laguna Speckled Buff clay. I did an entire series on this clay. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about what it's like to work with this clay, I'll go ahead and link that video for you. It's a warm, honey-colored clay that has a lot of tiny little flecks in it that look a lot like ground black pepper to me. I've decided to leave both the pot and his underbelly without any glaze on it. I'm hoping that this is going to give him a bit of a counter shading effect. Counter shading is a common method of camouflage where the backside is darker than the underside. This helps animals hide that are in the water especially even birds that fly in the sky, because the sun is shining from above. So if you're looking down on something, you're going to see darkness and you're going to see the backside that's darker. It's going to blend in really well. But if you're looking at it from below and you're looking up and you're looking into the sun, everything's going to be a lot lighter. So the lighter underbelly and the darker backside help him to camouflage regardless of which direction that you are looking at him from. So all that's left is to pop him in the kiln for his final firing and pray to the kiln gods that they smile favorably upon him. It's always super nerve-wracking for me to fire dragons. I have a ton of dragons that I need to glaze and fire. Usually they just end up as bisques stacked up because I just am too anxious to glaze and fire them, but for this one I committed to getting him done. So we are going to glaze him and see how he turned out. And wow, he is amazing. I've decided to name him Vostok after both the Steve Alten book and the largest subglacial lake in Antarctica, which is what that book is named after. It's a really fantastic book. If you haven't read any Steve Alten novels, they are awesome. Meg and the Lock are my favorite series from him, and I highly recommend that you read them. They're fantastic aquatic sci-fi, and they're just some of my favorite books. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel, Blue Nose Trading. If you'd like to gain first access to all of my videos and help keep my channel alive, consider becoming a patron of my work at patreon.com/BlueNoseTrading. Remember to drink water, hug your friends, and share all of your amazing ideas with the world because we need them. And I will see you guys next week.